Hey guys, it's Spacey Sims, and we are back with more Chaos Child, and we will see how close to the ending we get if we don't get it today. But I'd kind of at least estimated that we'd get to this point, and I don't know how many parts past this we'd get, so, yeah. But we seem to be at a point where Serica's, starting to remember, and I feel like this will hit off her memories, and it just matters. I mean, I guess it just depends if the game is like, okay, it's going to take her 3 hours of flashback to remember, and we're going to drag it on, or is it going to kind of happen at a decent pace? Because, I mean, there was a lot going on, but I remember the original ending, like when you end the common route, and it's like, we've been here for 32 days. It was long. So, we'll see. I feel like we don't need to rehash all of that, really, but they probably will, just to kind of like Serica's impressions and her thoughts on finding out the truth, if she does, you know what I mean? But, I don't know. Anyway.
It hurt to breathe. I was gasping like I was underwater. The actors sang, their voices riding on the powerful music. It was a song the heroes sang to inspire themselves and the people before they went off to fight the revolution. The people of this fictional world all lined up and yelled, "Come along and join us," they sang. And then it happened. I saw someone on the empty stage. They were holding something up high in their hands. I could see that it was a sword gleaming with a dull shine. It was a tool for battle.
Because it was the one thing I could do to atone for her. Together, nothing would change. Apart, both she and I would stop making mistakes. A man can't spend his life clinging to the girl he loves.
Huh?
Oh, it's kind of like a little sad CG. She's just sitting there crying. Huh.
I was crying. It was the same tears I felt on my cheek when I woke up in the morning. I quickly wiped them away with the back of my hand. But they didn't stop. I kept wiping them away and they didn't stop coming.
And everyone's like looking at her because it's like it's a comedy that they're watching, and she's like bawling her eyes out. I'm just kidding.
Huh? It was no good. They wouldn't stop. I couldn't stop them. I buried my face in my hands.
I don't have any regrets. I don't regret what I did. I'm satisfied.
You scum! Keep going. Who was always by your side?
My best friend.
You had a best friend, huh? Even though you committed all those awful murders?
And now we're gonna eat these words.
Was your best friend another Chaos Child? What are they doing now?
No, she's a normal person. She's dead now.
She's gone?
Oh, she's gone.
The play ended and the audience gave a standing ovation. The actors stood on the stage and bowed. Alone, I wiped away my tears. I sat there for a long time, unable to get up. No one else could see the blurry world I saw. I looked up to stop the tears from falling down. And the lights on the stage shone down on me like a spotlight.
Starring. Is that like the end? Wow. I guess that was the end. Well, okay, so we could have finished that in the last part. Alright, I might just edit these two parts together. So if you're watching it all, unless there's any kind of after thing, I figured it was going to take longer than that, but okay. So, like, They don't. They leave it very open-ended. So, all right, I didn't see that coming. Because I was like, she's either gonna remember everything, or then she's gonna go on her merry way and not, and like, but this is more like she started to remember, but you could theorize that I don't want to watch the credits because I don't know if this song, here we go, there's more after stuff. But like, you could theorize at that point if this is where it ended, like, she fully remembers, or maybe she just has that, like, right there, it's like this inkling, like she's starting to, but you could be like, nope, I'm just gonna pretend I don't know and keep going. You know what I mean? You could block those memories. Like, it's never really specifically stated right there. Did she absolutely remember everything? Like, because every other part that she's gone through, it's been like, I feel like I know this, and like, it's making me feel something, but she doesn't quite know why. So you could kind of read into this like that, like she's starting to remember things and things are feeling familiar. If you want to be like, no, she's not going to remember, you could convince yourself that she didn't, or you could be like, no, that blurry world that she saw wasn't just the world through her tears, that's that hazy memories, like she's going to remember everything. Like, but I mean, I guess now we'll see. October 2016. 8 months later. The next examination will be at the same time next week. Take care. I guess we got everyone out, and then Kurusu went back to being Senri. That would make sense, you know what I mean? Because there's all right, thank you. I don't remember the voice we gave her, but as she bowed to the nurse who she'd come to know quite well, Senri Minamisawa, the girl who was once Nono Kurusu, checked the time. It was almost noon. The exams were getting shorter and shorter. I wonder if like, I mean, okay, so like that was the truth of her story, so it's not like that changed, but I really am starting to wonder then if, because they were all in comas, because I think I said something like that, but I don't think I kind of formulated the full thought, but everybody in the comas, when we're in that world with them, that's because they separated from the delusion that everybody was in. We were all living our happy lives, and then they split off, just like we did. But we came out of like the delusion, and we were living in the real world. And they are just like in comas because they couldn't stay in the delusion that everyone was in, but they also couldn't come back to the real world. So then it's like, so their coma version is their individual delusions, which would have been their individual routes. That's fucking heavy, yo. And I mean, I think I was starting to think, I don't know if I fully formulated that thought and spit it out, but I know I was like, oh, I wonder if like their routes, because all the people that we had routes with were in their delusion, but I don't know if I fully formulated it. I don't remember if I did, but that's where I'm going now, so. I either got there before, forgot about it, and came back, or I started going there, forgot about it, and now we're back. Anyway. They hadn't even given her any drugs today. That probably meant she was getting better, and since she looks normal, obviously that shows that we got them out of, you know. Oh, sister. Yuki Amazoe, whose exam had evidently been as short as hers, came down from the psych ward on the 5th floor. When she saw Senri, she ran over. Are you done for the day too? Hey, no running in the hospital. You're right, I'm sorry. It's so cute because Senri just looks so little. Like, she's so short. Like, you're like, Kurusu is taller, and then like Senri is like barely taller than Yamazoe, who is like basically 8. Like, Senri felt herself smile as she watched her little sister walk past, but not run, toward the front desk. Her little sister had struggled with her physical therapy, but now she could walk and run like a normal girl. She wanted to be a nurse just like Senri. Aw, it would be the perfect job for her. They both have experience. Okay, let's go. We got out earlier than expected, so why don't we invite everyone to lunch? I'm sure they'll come. Yeah, oh. Yuki suddenly seemed to remember something and stopped. I'm like, what happened to frickin' Yuto? Because he wasn't a Chaos Child patient, so like, what happened to him? Like, and what happened to Ito? Poor Yuto, everything in that kid's world, but also Ito, come on. Like,
Did you forget something? No, Yuki was choosing her words carefully as she looked at the elevator that had just come down. Are you sure, sister? Yeah. Senri put her hand on her little sister's head.
I mean, like, she's barely taller. It's so cute.
We said goodbye, right? That's good enough. And the security is really tight recently. Nobody can get in.
Aww. They're talking about us, aren't they?
But... So it's fine, Yuki. Don't be like that, okay? Her little sister nodded a second later, and Senri smiled.
Glad to see you survived your checkup.
Thanks.
Kazuki can talk now! Because she doesn't have powerful words! She's just gonna be a veritable fucking Irish river! It's all gonna come flowing out! It's like the rapids! She said, thanks, but you know.
When she contacted them on her phone, she found that Hanai Arimura and Hana Kazuki had both been waiting for her call all morning.
I was shocked that for a second. I was like, that says Kazuki, right? Like, she's talking? Didn't dawn on me at first, you know, like, oh yeah, okay.
They met in front of Shibuya Station and started walking. It had been a long time since the four of them had gone through the city together like this. They saw each other often at the hospital, but their exams and physical therapy were all at different times, which made it hard to schedule anything. But today was a special day. Even if they didn't say anything, they all knew where they were. They all knew they were going to meet. Sorry.
What's you doing today?
Oh, Yuto, yeah. You went to the library with his friends.
Whoa, he's going to the library on his day off? That's a scary thought.
He was all excited to be a lawyer when he grows up.
Wow, a lawyer? For a kid's dream, that's pretty... Oh. Oh, so that's it, Hanai almost said, but she stopped herself. He's gonna become a lawyer and get me Ashido free. That's exactly she's... You're like, he wants to be a lawyer, and I'm like, oh, we know why. And then she got there too. That's so cute. Okay, so I know this is... Well, this one is after Chaos Head, which... Funny, because I thought I had looked it up, and I know I said this in other ones, like, okay, I can't find... It was from PS2 days. I think it was PS3. And actually, I think they might have had a Vita version of it. I think there was a Vita port. But it was never localized! I swear that I looked for and it was like, oh, you can't get it because it's older, but I guess that the problem is it's only in Japanese. They never localized it in English. So there was no way to play it before this anyway, which seems very odd to me. Because I know several people in the comments have suggested, oh, you should have played that first. Well, I can't. I don't read Japanese. So, and I was like, that seems odd because I swear when I first was looking into it, it was like, oh, okay. When I got this game years ago and I was like, okay, oh, there's a prequel kind of thing. Okay, and I looked for it. I swear it was just that it was an older version and there was no way to get it for the PS4. Which is weird because there is a Vita version, but... And maybe I had read that the Vita version wasn't localized, but I thought the other ones were. But the thing is like, if there was a port for the Vita, and it had ever been localized, they would have localized the port too. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't be like, oh, well, only on the PS3 can you get the localized version. That's not how it would have worked. So, I don't know, so we couldn't have played it even if we wanted to. But, and I know Steins Gate takes place in the same universe, and Robotics Notes, but I don't think those are direct spin-offs. Robotics Notes is a spin-off of which one? I don't know. I don't really quite remember, but like how it goes if it's just like same universe but not like a sequel, like this was kind of a sequel, like there's a lot of things. Oh, I think Robotics Notes is the one that's like, if you didn't play, it might have been Chaos Head that it's like, you're not going to understand shit in that. And it's like, well, what the fuck? They never localized it, though, so that's stupid. Which is just really weird. Like, this one you could. Like, yeah, you're missing chunks, and you're like, okay, there's shit that happened in the other game, but you could still... I mean, we played it perfectly fine. No, we don't have some of like maybe you would where you'd be like, oh my god, so like that, yeah, I know, I have more info on it. We got by just fine without knowing shit. But it is kind of weird that they localized this one and not the first one. It's like, let's localize Danganronpa 2, but not the first one, the second one. Oh, but it's also weird if you play it because it makes no sense when the characters from one show up in the second one and you're like, who the fuck are these people? You know what I mean? Like, just don't get it, but anyway, because I was thinking, like, I think, well, Robotics Notes is the newer one, but is this the third one? Chaos Head was the first one, and then Steins Gate, and then this one, like, in the universe, kind of the things. Because then I was just wondering, like, there's gonna be another game. It's another Chaos something game, and it'll be Yuto, like. Because it makes me feel like sometimes when Shinjo mentions stuff, I'm like, was like the person that Shinjo mentions that he looked up to, remember there was that one part he said it in the common route, and was like, was that person like in the first game, and like we'd have more insight into it instead of being slightly mysterious if we'd played the first game, you know what I mean? So like, then we'll get to Yuto and he'll be like, I tried to save him, but I couldn't. And they'll be like, who's him? What is he talking about? If you never played this one. Because I kind of want that. But I want to see Yuto all grown up and like, just actually being happy for once. But that would just defeat the purpose of a game like this. Because a game like this, like, I feel like nobody's happy. Sure, you're acting happy, but it's one of those, like, it's reality happy where you're like, I'm like happy, but like, everything really sucks underneath. Like, so you're just floating on shark-infested waters. You're like, yeah, it's nice now, till the sharks get hungry, and I can't swim anymore, and then someone's gonna die. Sucks, but hey, we're floating on top of that shark-infested water right now. It's okay, I guess, but anyway. Both Hana and Hanai immediately understood the meaning of Yuto Tachibana's childlike dream, as well as the fact that it might even come true. That's so cute. I feel like that's sequel bait. And Yuto knew what day it was, too. That had to have been why he went to the library with his friends, just like the four of them had gathered together. An indescribable sadness was threatening to build up between them. See? It's like, oh, we're all together, but we're really not. Oh, whoops! It was Artemura's loud voice that broke the silence. Everybody, if we don't hurry, all the restaurants are gonna be full. That's right. Where should we eat? I'm super hungry, so I suggest the usual cafe. What do you guys think? Or what do you think, guys? I'm okay with that. Me too. That's fine. All right, let's go there then. Okay, follow me. It's so funny because they all look slightly out of proportion with each other. Like, Artemura's head is, like, so much bigger than everyone else's. And, like, Senri is, like, so much tinier. Her head is smaller than Yamazo. It's like they drew them and then they just put them, but they didn't, like, size them appropriately. They were just like, whatever. You're like... It's kind of awkward if you look at it. But I love them. It's still funny. Hanai raised one hand up like a tour guide and wrapped the other around Hana's. The two of them had been hanging out together a lot recently. Then she plunged into the crowd. I know I love Kazuki to death. She's my favorite. But I also kind of feel like she might be tied with Artemura because I really do like Artemura at the end of the day. Like, she was a pain in the motherfucking ass in the beginning, but, like, even in her route and everything, there's just something about her being like, oh my god, guys, like, whatever. Like, I don't know, there's just something about her that I like. Because she's always perky and happy, and even when she's miserable on the inside, she's just happy, and you're like, it's kind of infectious. I don't know. There were no Chaos Child Syndrome patients to be seen. 8 months ago, over 80% of the Chaos Child Syndrome patients in Shibuya all fell unconscious at once. They were all quickly split up and taken to nearby hospitals. The hospitals were overflowing with patients. It was almost like the earthquake 6 years ago. No, 7 years now. Even those patients who had escaped the initial waves quickly fell unconscious as well, and were also taken to hospitals. That was our message. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured. Several people were injured when they'd fallen, but none of them badly. And several days later, the patients began to wake up, almost all of them in a state of extreme panic. They couldn't believe their real forms. Senri, Hanai, and the others woke up at the same time and were terribly confused. But they didn't panic like the others. He quickly realized that he was involved and that he'd done this for everyone's sake. Such a bittersweet ending, though, you know? And so all the patients returned to a normal but harsh reality. Minamisawa, don't get out of line! We'll leave you behind! Oh, right. Senri realized that she'd stopped walking as she reflected on the past. She ran to catch up with the others. What had happened when she was asleep? Right after she'd woken up, Takuru had told her himself. Kunasato and Shinjo had let her meet him in a special hospital room. He also told her about Sarika's true nature and the truth behind the return of the new generation madness. Wakui, the committee, and Chaos Child Syndrome too. He told her about everything. And lastly, he told her the truth about Sakuma, the father she'd believed in. That's true because she got stabbed before she found out the truth, and then she was in her own little kind of delusion at that point, probably. And there was something that she, Senri Minamisawa, or Nono Kurusu, depending, had to tell him too. Now that she didn't look like Nono Kurusu anymore, there was no way she could keep up the lie. She'd had trouble working up the courage before she went into Takuru's room. She'd hesitated so many times and almost thought about not meeting him at all. He's like, I remember. But it was the other girls from her room that had scolded her and urged her on. She'd been the last to wake up because of the wound in her chest, and by the time she did, Yuki, Hanai, and Hana had already seen the real her. And everyone had forgiven her without saying a word. But when she'd hesitated about meeting Takuru, they'd gotten really mad. Can't you trust him? They asked. Is he the kind of guy who wouldn't forgive you? And that was enough for her to decide. Now, this is the interesting part. So if she goes in and then he's like, what shock? Then no, he doesn't have memories of all the other delusions that we were in. Then those delusions were just them in their coma state, I feel like. Like their coma dreams that we were involved with, but we don't remember. After she told him everything, Takuru had laughed gently. You're so silly. You should have told me sooner. Okay, so no. Whatever they were, like, so all those paths, I feel like was their, like, coma dreams, but it was their coma dreams, and we knew nothing about it. That's what I'm going with, because they're not going to tell me, unless they tell me otherwise. So, like, Takuru wasn't really there, but we were playing as him because it makes sense until you get to the end of the game. Because otherwise, if you went into the path and then all of a sudden we were Arimura in her route, you know what I mean? Because, yeah, well, anyway. Every time she remembered his voice then, she felt like she would cry. Senri gave up her old name and body and went back to being herself. She'd been forced into 6 months of physical therapy, not just because of the syndrome, but the stab wound as well. But at last, she was capable of going outside on her own. She'd gone back to Hekkyo Academy, which was now just a normal private school, and started living the life of a normal student along with the others. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. What is it? How was the exam? The same as ever, but they didn't give me any medicine. I think I'm about done with doctors. What about you, Kazuki? Me too. Maybe. She still says maybe all the time. I love it. Kazuki looked up at the sky as she spoke. I fucking love her. I love her so much. She didn't talk, and when she talks, she has a stupid Irish accent. I know Weed gave that to her. That's not how she actually talks, but there's just something endearing about the fact that I gave her the stupid Irish accent. That's just, like, terrible, and I just love her for it. I just love imagining that voice coming out of her. I don't know why. Like, she'd been lying to everyone, too. And just like Senri, she'd been reluctant to admit it. And Hanai had scolded her, too. When she'd opened up to Takuru about her lie, he forgave her like nothing was wrong at all. I feel like maybe he really does remember everything that happened. He's like, oh, wow, no, sweetie, it's okay. Because he's like, I know, I was there. But he doesn't want to tell them. Like, is that what you're getting? Because, like... or, like, real Miyashiro was, like, way better than Miyashiro in all the routes. He was like, how could you lie to me? How dare you? And now he's like, yeah, no, it's cool. After everything that he's done, he's like, I gotta forgive people. Even after losing her power, Hana still didn't talk a lot, but she was trying her best. That was her promise to Takuru, she thought. This is so cute, though. You should let more people hear your voice. I bet you'd make more friends. Shibuya was filled with people enjoying their day off, and Senri and the others were living the same lives as everyone else. Except for one person. The boy who had been at their center. This is my harem, bitch. I kind of finally get a harem, but, like, it's not what I wanted. I wanted a man harem, but, like, I'll take it. They'd only brought it up during a small silence after they'd eaten lunch at the usual cafe. At first, no one wanted to discuss it. But about the same time Senri had gotten tired of watching the ice melt in her iced tea, Anai opened her mouth to speak. Did you see? She pointed to the phone in her hand. It was displaying a gossip site. Yeah. The article was about Takuru. It said that Takuru Miyashiro, the boy responsible for the serial killings in Shibuya, had been kept at A.H. Tokyo General Hospital to aid in research on Chaos Child Syndrome. True. And now that the research was mostly finished, he was finally being sent to a detention house for the real interrogations to begin. Oh. Even if he was a minor, in light of the effect his crimes had on society, the article said, there was no chance he'd ever be getting out. And that's why Yuto is going to be a lawyer. And then we're going to have Yuto Tachibana. It's going to be like Phoenix Wright, but like, lawyered! You can tie every game in the game universe together in some weird fucking way. Like, every game is kind of... This is like a Danganronpa game. You just didn't realize it underneath. Monokuma's in the background. Controlling shit. Monokuma's just inside a Serika puppet. Is really what it is. And then we're going to play Phoenix Wright and get Miyashiro out of jail. And in the process, we're going to have to do, like, Professor Layton puzzles in order to solve the mystery and get the clues. It said all that in sensational and exaggerated tones. Where does the media find this stuff? Most of what the article said was right. And Shinjo had told them that the day Takuru would be transferred today. Was today. Prison break? They were able to say goodbye a while before. Shinjo had set it up. Really, right up until the very end, The last time they'd met, Takuru had asked them for a favor. It involved Serika Onoe. Stay away from her unless she comes to you. If she does come to you, forgive her and treat her like a normal friend. And never tell her about me or her past. But I feel like we just saw her kind of remembering. He'd insisted on these 3 things until the very end. But Serika hadn't come to them at all. Kunasato had told them that she lived in Yokohama and was attending Hekkio from there. Attending high school from there, not Hekkio. But they hadn't heard anything else. Because she wouldn't be attending Hekkio. She would be attending a normal high school, so I think they meant high school, but... What are they doing now? What are they doing, you think? I don't know. Of course, Kazuki said nothing. Just really what? Come on, Kazuki! No one was sure if Yuki's question was about Takuru or Serika, or maybe both of them. And they were probably all sad because they're like, this is what he wants, but like, he shouldn't be going to jail for Serika's crimes. Oh, let's get going. When she stood up to go, Senri realized something. I am just really happy that she gets to be Senri. Like, you know what I mean? Now, like, it's kind of sad because, like, Nono wasn't a bad character. She wasn't my favorite, like, but in her route, you were like, okay, she grows on you. You know what I mean? And she, again, she was the way she was for perfectly good reasons, and I totally understand them. But she mommed us a lot. Again, understandable. So, like, I just detached from her where everybody else kind of was endearing if they were pains in the asses. She grew on me toward the end. Like, I don't hate her at all. So, like, but there is a part of you that's like, oh, I mean, it is kind of sad that there's no more Kurusu at all. But at the same time, you're like, no, but like, now she can be Senri and she can be her real self and like, Senri gets to be here. And I like, kind of like Senri a little bit better, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know. Anyway. Oh, that's right. Maybe she was asking about us. What are we doing right now? Takuto had a spot in the cafe where he always sat. Senri found herself looking at it and almost cried again. The four of them left the cafe and slowly headed for the station. They planned to split up and go home from there. None of them were looking at their phones, but their heads were all bent lower than normal. But no one noticed. Just before the light turned green, Senri realized that they were completely buried in the people surrounding them. Her mouth opened on its own. Want to go see a movie? Huh? The other three looked up in surprise. Their mouths fell in shock. They seemed to have been caught completely off guard. It's too early to just go home. She was right. The sun hadn't even begun to set. Anai suddenly started to tear at her hair. Dang it, I was gonna try and keep everyone from getting down today! Her twin tails spun angrily. You were thinking about that? Why would I hold your hand otherwise? You're not my boyfriend! You hold my hand all the time lately. I don't know what you're talking about! Right. So you'll come with me to the movie, right? Sure thing! Anai clapped her hands together and then spread her arms as if to give Senri a hug. She's like, I'll hold hands, give everybody a hug. That's what you need. Like, you need some human touch to just... We're sad. It's okay. Hand on shoulder, you know. What about you, Yuki? You're free after this, right? Huh? Yeah? But... Yuki made the same face she'd made at the hospital. Let's go back to the hospital after all, she seemed to say. It's almost time, isn't it? Senri knew Yuki was worried about her, and that's why she smiled back silently. Thanks, but if we're going somewhere, let's go see a movie, okay? Because if she did meet Takuru, she would grab onto him and break down in tears. She didn't think she had it in her to control herself. I don't think any of us do. We'd all do the same thing. And she didn't want to let her little brother see her like that. She was never going to let him worry about her again. So, let's pick a fun movie. I want to write him a letter and say we saw a fun movie. Oh, I'll write one too. I'll write letters every day. Every day? I guess I'll have to do the same thing. Wow, you two are really in love with your brother, huh? Anai tried to tease them, but they both looked back at her and spoke in unison. Senri mischievously and Yuki extremely seriously. Is that wrong? I'm very proud of my younger brother. I'm very proud of my older brother. Whoa. Anai staggered back in exaggerated astonishment, and Senri gave her a pat to move her along. Come on, hurry! I'll leave you behind. Senri went to the front and started to walk. Aww. Unlike a moment ago, she was standing tall, ready to face whatever fate had in store for her. Yuki went after her, her footsteps steady and firm as well. Just feel like it's gonna end like this. It's gonna be like, but it's so sad. It's like happy but sad. The remaining two looked at each other for a moment, and then they started to laugh and ran to catch up to the sisters. Hey, wait, Senri, Yuki! I can recommend a movie. The movies you recommend are always so stupid, though. Huh? Look at Kazuki's little shorts! Oh my god, they're so cute. Little plaid shorts. Huh, that's strange. And there were supposed to be data in here. Hey, I've told you again and again not to touch that. The door opened and an angry Kunasato came inside. We're us again! I'm sorry. Their test results were clean, just like always. There's no fear of a relapse for now. I gave a small sigh of relief when I heard that. Good. And the treatment seemed to be working well. So, How long are Nona or Senri and the others going to keep getting treatment? You're about to be taken away and you're still worrying about other people? Well, whatever. Guess that. Oh, that's Kunisano. Well, whatever. I guess that's just who you are. Kunisano sighed in resignation. All I'm doing now is checking their chromosomes for any abnormalities. Well, it's basically like a physical. If nothing else, I'm going to keep it up until we can completely determine the cause of the aging process. Right now it's once a week, but I'm planning on cutting it back gradually. When can you start cutting it back? I don't know, Kunasato said. And from the way she was talking, she wasn't lying. She really didn't know. What happened to Ito? We know about Yuto, but... I mean, okay, Ito... Right, never mind. We know what happened to Ito, but it's kind of like... But, like, why was he at the school? I'm still curious. Anyway. My role in research and curing Chaos Child Syndrome had mostly come to an end after I created that image. All that was left was for Kunasato and the regular scientists helping her to figure out the scientific cause. Maybe there isn't one. You had magic powers. Can science explain magic powers? I mean, magic is just science we don't understand yet. Because, like, there was a point in history where I was like, magic! Witches! And it's like, no, it's just like science. Think about it, so. Magic is just science we don't know. We can't grasp. I'm just saying. So, like, whatever. But they seem to be having a hard time figuring out what caused the artificial aging process. As for what they knew now, and there were structures called telomeres at the end of a chromosome. Telomeres? Which were related to the aging process in some way. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. That's it. Telomere, a repeated set of base pairs at the end of a chromosome. Since it has been confirmed that they get shorter with each cell division, and telomere shortening has been seen in patients suffering from accelerated aging disorders, it's believed that they are deeply connected with cellular aging, and thus with the aging of the entire body. Okay, so fix that shit and find something to fix those and fuse them back together or whatever and revert the aging I'm just saying! Come on, science, get with it. And there were signs that Chaos Child Syndrome patients were artificially creating them inside their bodies. And these false telomeres shortened at a gradually accelerated rate that drastically restricted the number of times a cell could divide. My hypothesis was that the brain recognized these artificial telomeres as real and initiated the aging process. But much of that was still in the realm of hypothesis, and Kunasato herself didn't seem satisfied with the explanation at all. But whatever the underlying principle was, when I asked her what had happened, she shrugged and said this. I don't fucking know! Just kidding. It's probably because the mind and body mistakenly think that living in a delusion means being reborn into a new person. So that's it. It's not just the mind that's mistaken, it's the body as well. The phenomenon where these mistakes, or errors, would occur along the chromosomes had been known in the medical world for a long time. That's right, it was the same mechanism as cancer. In other words, former Chaos Child Syndrome patients were at a high risk of developing that disease. Senri and the others would probably keep getting exams to look for these errors in their cells, all without knowing why. I feel like you should tell them, because you have a higher elevated risk of cancer because you age prematurely and like whatever, you know? And according to Kunasato, she had no idea when these exams might end. They might go on forever. Actually, there's something very interesting regarding you, too. Kunasato stared at me as if trying to peer into the bottom of my heart. From now on, for a very long time, you're going to lose access to the internet, probably for the first time in your life. Am I right? Yeah, come to think of it, she was right. The internet already existed when I was born, and by the time I hit puberty, it was everywhere. Shut up! Making all the rest of us look old. What? There was the interwebs? Back in the day, before there was computers, everybody had their own computer. We had one as a family, and it was a newfangled invention. Grandma Spacey is so motherfucking old. Remember when phones were tethered to the wall and you couldn't put them in your pocket? You could put them in your pocket, but you had to have really big motherfucking pockets, and they were still stuck to the fucking wall. I gotta stop. You put so much emphasis on being on the right side of the information divide, and for the first time, you're gonna have restricted access to information. When that life becomes natural to you, how are your thought patterns going to change, I wonder? He's like, I'm probably just gonna die in prison. That sucks. A while ago, I might have panicked just thinking about it. And strangely, I didn't feel like it now. It'll be interesting to see how you change as you go from a roaring storm of information to drifting in a quiet, empty sea. I promised you this. Feel free to use me as an experiment. Yeah, you're right. Ito's getting a lot better. Not just from the syndrome, but from the brain damage, too. Thanks for your help. I guess he did have Chaos Child Syndrome. Okay, that explains why he was at the school. He just didn't know what magic powers he had. Because he hadn't figured it out yet. Unlike everybody else. I was only able to save him medically. I can't make any guarantees about the legal side. Well, I'm going to jail for a crime I didn't commit, so he's going to jail for a crime he did commit even though he was brainwashed and mind-controlled into doing it. But technically, his fingerprints are on that murder weapon. Me, I did nothing. I just created the murder weapon, okay? Technically. Shinjo had told me that Ito would be prosecuted, but in the end, he'd probably be given treatment in a medical facility for minors. I didn't know how long it would take, but I was relieved to know that he'd eventually go free. Remembering Yui made my heart ache, but it wasn't his fault. We've turned into such a good person, we just forgive everyone. We're like, you know what? Ito, it wasn't your fault. Because, I mean, it wasn't. But it's still a hard thing to be like, I'm going to forgive you. I know it wasn't your fault, but you want to be... But you know what I mean? It's a hard place to be. And then we're like, we just forgive everybody for everything. Serica, go be happy. I'll go to jail for you. What happened to us? Did they drug us? Like, man. What are you going to do now, Kunasato? I remembered something I wanted to ask before I left this place. Kunisato's eyebrows rose in surprise. I wonder if this is where Serica comes and takes us away, and that's how... Because remember, that's how the common run ended, and you're like, what? What the hell? Are you going to continue your revenge against the committee? Of course. I'm going to keep dancing just like what Kui said. And then, I saw a little smile from around her mouth. Form around her mouth, not from. Form. I'm sure that's what that said. I read it wrong. That's right. You and I may end up keeping in touch. Wakui said he was going to continue to observe you, didn't he? That's right. He's going to see whether or not you give in to despair and terror at what's about to happen to you, and regain your powers as a gigalomaniac. And that's your game with him. Yeah. And then you're going to be kept alive, and I'll keep watching you so I can find him when he slips up. Her face is funny. Can I come in? There was a knock at the door, and I heard a voice I knew well. Shinjo came in with a serious look on his face. When does Shinjo not have a serious look on his face? Seriously? Wait for it. They're not gonna show him. But, like, when have you ever, aside from, like, kind of like shock face or, like, sad eyebrows, when has his face never been serious? Have you ever seen Shinjo smile? Did we ever see the man smile? He's always serious. This poor man! Anyway. He was looking at me, seemingly uncertain as to what to say. I want there to be a Yuto game where he's like an attorney doing this stuff, and I want Shinjo to be in it as like the old cop, and he's like, I'm too fucking old for this, but here I am still doing the same damn job. Still with the sad look on his face. You know what? I don't. I really don't, because I just want to pretend that Yuto went on to be happy, and you know if there's another game, Yuto's life is going to be fucking like a clusterfuck. Like Miyashiro's life, right? Like, it's never going to get better. And you're like, poor Yuto. You just want to pretend that he's going to go on and find happiness in his life. And you want the same thing for Shinjo, for fuck's sake. But if they had another game with all these characters again, and they were like, oh, you'd be like, everybody's fucking miserable. You just want to pretend. And then we all lived happily ever after, right? But no, at some point, the sharks are going to be biting their ankles. So, I don't just want to pretend that that's not going to happen, so... I waited, motionless, until finally he sighed. Shinjo said the words. It's time. All right. I slowly stood up from the chair. Shinjo knew the truth, but still accepted my decision. I could do nothing but be grateful for that. I knew how hard that had to be for a detective, but the thing is like, how do you explain? And that's why we are there. It was mind control? Huh? But then again... It seemed weird in the delusion we were living in, but in the real world, there's some kind of weird, like, Chaos Child. They probably could get away with it and be like mind control. He was using a device that somehow did that, like... And that's how Ito goes free, we go free. There was some girl, we don't know what happened to her. Like, you know? I don't know. Thank you for everything. Sorry for all the trouble. I bowed deeply. No, it's nothing compared to what you went through. See, like, look, does he look happy? This is his face all the time. The man never, except for maybe shock eyebrows or like sad face, but like, he's never not serious. He put his hand on my shoulder. Oh! Dad! He was big and strong. Okay, Miyashiro, I'm gonna need you to simmer down, okay? I had an older brother. Would he have been like this? No, he's like your. Oh, I like that you think he's an older brother. He's basically your new adopted dad. You're like my dad, Shinjo. And Shinjo's like, I am not old enough to be your dad, but like, fuck. I'm the one who should thank you. There was another detective on the other side of the door, ready to take me to the transport. The rest of the world still didn't really know what I looked like after I'd recovered from Chaos Child Syndrome. It was Shinjo who had convinced the others that I'd stand out less if they didn't put handcuffs on me and try to hide my face. Thanks to that, I'd be able to walk outside as a normal high school kid one last time. I bowed one last time to Shinjo and then turned to Kunasato. Take care of everyone for me. Yeah, see you around. Kunasato nodded weakly and I nodded back. She doesn't hate us! Aww! Because she was always like, I hate all of you, you all suck, and now she's like, kind of liked you a little. Aww, she's a good girl. And then I headed for the exit. Oh, Miyashiro. I stopped and turned around. There was something I almost forgot to ask. It's not terribly important, though. Her name and age. Why Serika Onoe? Was there some reason for her age? It was actually something I'd been thinking about for a long time after we were first apart. It was the first step of a very big mistake. When I'd finally found the answer, I'd burst out laughing. Her name was an anagram of my parents' names. Saneo Miyashiro, Eriko Miyashiro. Serika. Oh, no way. Oh my god, that really is! Wow. The things you're supposed to look for in a parent, I saw it in her. I think that's where I got the name. But if you wanted her to play the role of a parent, shouldn't you have made her older than you? I think I didn't want to admit that I wanted a parent, so she couldn't be older than me. She had to be a girl who was younger than me so I could protect her. It was stupid pride even for a kid. Thinking back, I really was a fool. I see. Said I was really a fool, but whatever. If I wasn't mistaken, I caught a glimpse of gentleness in her expression. But you did protect her. You're not a fool anymore. I smiled back at her and turned away, and that's all he wanted. He just protected the dangerous weapon he made. I made my stride a little longer than usual so my resolve wouldn't waver. And then I stepped out the door. Wow, it keeps going. Okay, ooh, it took 5 minutes and I was like, oh, okay. And it's like the after part is like long as shit, but it had been forever since I'd been outside and the weather was beautiful. I was so used to the darkness that the strong sunlight stung my eyes. The wind was a little cold, but it felt good. It swirled by as if purifying my whole body. I was surprised not to see any reporters or gawkers, but I learned later that Kei, aka Kunasato, had given the media and internet false information. I walked for a while until I saw a black car stopped on the side of the road. It was probably the transport car. Huh. I felt a sense of deja vu and stopped to look around. And then I remembered. That's right. And this was a corner of AH Tokyo General Hospital. 6 years ago, during the earthquake, it had been an evacuation shelter. The detective saw that I stopped and asked me what was wrong. But there were too many feelings inside me to explain. That's right. And this is where I created her. I stood there in silent shock. Nearby in the bright sunlight, just a few seconds away if I were to run. She was standing there. The girl I thought for sure I'd never meet again. She was looking at me as if uncertain whether to smile, cry, or get mad. Because she remembers. I feel like she does. There was a girl next to her that I didn't know, about the same age. Why? What was she doing here? I couldn't look away. I couldn't move. We were so close, but we were staring at each other across a distance that could never be crossed. The detective told me to start walking. I couldn't answer. I realized that my fists were clenched. Serica? Huh? What? I heard a pretty voice. The soft wind seemed to be carrying it to me. What's wrong? Who's that? Someone you know? This is like so sad. I didn't know what feelings were being exchanged between us, but I could see tears forming in her eyes. She knows. She remembers. Come on. No, I don't know him. And the tears fell without a sound. She was smiling. The girl next to her must have been her best friend. She waved away her tears and smiled so that her friend wouldn't see them. And then she turned around and walked away from me. Because she knows what you did and she's not going to ruin it. But then again, at the same time, again, you could be like, does she absolutely remember, or does she just have an impression about something? You know what I mean? Is she just like, I know that something happened between us, I know that you mean something to me, but I don't quite know what it is, and I'm gonna stop chasing it? Or, I remember everything, and I remember what you did to give me this life, and she's not gonna fuck up your sacrifice. But now she's gotta live with all the dirty shit she said to you, and she can't even be like, I'm sorry about it! You're just like, yeah, I know you fucking are, bitch. Yeah, you're right. But it's still sad, because you're like, man, this kind of sucks for everyone, doesn't it? Time started to move again, and a smile formed on my face as well. It's so sad. Yeah, I don't know you either. The sun stung my eyes. I looked up at the sky, so that the sudden tears wouldn't fall to the ground. Oh, I was crying tears of joy. And that's what I believed. And that's what I had to believe. Everything was for the best. I'm sorry, let's go, I said to the detective, and I started to walk. I didn't look at her as she got further away. We would never see each other again. And the paths we walked would never cross. Such a bittersweet fucking ending. And that was how we would live our lives together. It's sad, it hurts. It makes me want to cry. Like, I'm not gonna, because, like, I'm, like, a stone-hearted, cold bastard. And I've cried, like, once in a game, but, like, I mean, we get moments, but, like, this is one of those moments where you're like, I kind of just wish I could just, like, break down, because, like, it's kind of sad, like, it's, like, beautiful, but painful, and it's, like, it's a great fucking game, and it was a great fucking ending, but it's still painful. You're like, no, it's not how it's supposed to be, but, like, the real world doesn't run on happy endings, you know? Oh, look at how pretty it is outside. I mean, did we get all the tips? I feel like we didn't. I feel like there was a bunch. Maybe we did. Because I looked before we did this one and I was like, oh, no, okay, we did get them all. I know we got all the endings, obviously. And then, oh, look at that. We got a new movie. We got all the music, I think. Whoops. God damn it. Yeah, because there were some songs that weren't there before, but now they're all there. Not that it makes a difference. I'm just, okay. But there was a bunch. So there was a bunch of CGs in Serica's route because I looked, I think, after one of the parts when we started getting into hers. And, like, it was, yeah, like, all of this. Like, this is all new CGs, like, a whole bunch of them. Like, it's so sad. Like, it's so sad! Everything in this ending, why? Like, angry he looks. I will punch you, Serica. You forget this shit. But, like, I do like the fact that, like, it's clear that she remembered. I love this. This one's so sad to me. Like, I don't know why. Like, it really is sad because it's like they're just walking off into the future. And, like, you knew when this happened, it was like, oh, God, we are going to jail, are we? There's not going to be, like, some miraculous thing. It's like, but, like, fuck. Okay, cool. We got 70 parts. And that's what I thought. I'm pretty sure this is part 70. And that's what I figured it would go to. Shit. Like, I mean, I said everything I needed to say about this game as we were going through, and, like, I do kind of like how they left it with Serica's route, where you could kind of read into it either way. You could be like, she absolutely remembers everything, and then she knows what you're doing. She knows the sacrifice that you've made for her, and so she's just not going to say or do anything, and she's got to now live with that weight. But in the same respect, you could also be like, maybe she doesn't quite remember, but she remembers you, and she knows that you had an impact in her life, and that's why she's there. And it's like, nope, I don't know him, and she's just letting go and not gonna find the truth. You know what I mean? You could read into it either way. I mean, because I feel like you could absolutely, like, convince yourself that she doesn't fully remember everything, because they didn't tell you straight up she remembered everything. They gave you that impression, but sometimes you're like, oh yeah, so she remembers, and the game's like, no, actually she didn't, and you're like, what? I feel like the truth is that she did remember. You know what I mean? And even though I'm not saying I have a problem with the ending, but I have my only issue is, no, but I wanted Sarah to get that little bitch slap in the face. I wanted to see her experience that bitch slap in the face after everything she said to us, the realization that she was the murderer, and, like, just that torment that was going to go through her. But, like, you know that went through. You know that exists. You know, the way I look at it is like, that's exactly what happened. She did go through that torment. We just didn't experience it, and I wanted to experience it, but there's something, like, beautiful about this ending still. We were like, all right. It's kind of like, I hate to say it, because, like, I don't hate to say it, but it's weird to say that it's a happy ending, but it's sad as fuck. It's such a heavy ending. You know what I mean? Like, they leave it like, okay, they're all going off, and yep, we're gonna go watch a movie, and all the friends are together, and they're living their normal lives, and they're getting better and healthier, and, like, Ito won't, have to go to jail, and, like, Sarika's gonna live her happy life, and we're, but there's, if you take Miyashiro out, and, like, everyone's like, okay, yep, we're, this is great, everything is great. They're like the dog sitting in the fire in that meme, right? Like, everything is great. This is fine. When everything around them is just in flames, and it's like, it's not fine, though. It's really not. Like, but underneath is, like, just agony and just, but there's nothing you can do about it. And that's fucking life. And that's sometimes why endings like this, where you're like, no, but that's literally how life is, where something happens, something bad happens, and you have no choice but to be like, I just have to keep going. I don't wanna. I just want to stop. I just want to curl up in a ball, lay down right here, and just not do anything ever again. I want to hit the exit button, but you can't. You're just there and you're experiencing it. It's like when someone dies. You know what I mean? Like, in that moment, in all the moments surrounding it that come after it for a long period of time, nothing is okay. But you have to pretend things are okay. You know what I mean? And this is like that situation where they're like, we're going to the movies and we're happy. But you're going to have that moment where you're just laughing and everything is great. And then you're going to stop and think, everything is not great, though, deep down inside. There's that pain, that anguish, that weight that's just pulling you down. But you have no choice but to try to swim away from it. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful ending, because you're like, oh, look, it's sunny and it's wonderful, and everyone's going to go on about their lives while dragged down by the truth that they can never come out, and it sucks. So you're like, I hate this, but it's so good. But it's so good because it hurts a little. You know what I mean? Like, they put a nice little bow on it. Perfect, beautiful little bow, but it still doesn't change the fact that you just kind of wrapped up a steaming pile of shit. And I mean that in the sense of, like, everything that, like, just Truth didn't come out. Nothing was really. Everybody is stuck with like the steaming pile of shit, but the game wasn't a steaming pile of shit. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, it's shit in a pretty package. Like, because you want the happy ending. You want like everybody lived happily ever after, and the bad guys got their comeuppance, and all the good people are happy, and everything's perfect. But that's not the way life works. And so when you have an ending where like the truth hurts, motherfucker, it hurts, and like it's still a beautiful shit wrapping. Like, but I really enjoyed this game. I think a lot of it. I think there was only a few points where it was like, are we still doing? Are we done yet? What's happening? Nothing's happening. But I don't think there was ever a point where I was like, I just don't want to record it. More recently when I was playing other games, it's like, oh no, but I would get to the point where I'm like, oh right, I have to do this now. But because it was because I was invested in the midst of another game. But like when I started this was the only thing I was really recording at the time, and I just didn't want to stop. And I was like, no, I have to get to a point where I can stop so I can record something else. And then, now just because this whole last segment, I've had nothing else to record with it because our other game I couldn't upload. So I spent 40 hours recording it for nothing because I'm an idiot. It's a whole other point. So I was like, I could record multiple parts in a day, and I just didn't, just because I was like, once this is over, like now, what do I do for the next like week until I have the next game to record? Like I have nothing to play. I'm going to be playing games on my own, but I'm like, I've never been in a spot like this where like usually we have 2 or 3 things going, or I have so much happening, and then it's like, let's do this and let's do that. And now I'm like, I have nothing to do. I don't know. It's going to be weird trying to occupy my time. But, well, at this point, the other game that I started recording is going up because it's only September 1st right now as I'm recording this, and this is probably sometime into November, possibly December still. So, yeah. But, yeah, no. Wow. Good game though. We had fun. So this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what's coming up after this. We'll probably be back to Atome games because we have a bunch of those coming out. But I'm glad we finally actually played this. And thank you to the people who were on Twitter who voted for this in the poll because, I've had it for several years. And every time I think I'm just like, because I didn't really know, like, you're like, I'll just throw it out in the poll, and everybody voted, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm just glad we finally played it. Like, sometimes it's those games you buy, and you're like, maybe we'll play it someday, and then you're like, I don't know if I want to. You don't feel inspired to play it, and people are like, no, you should. And you do, and you're like, fuck, this was good. This was a ride. And I enjoyed it, so. And I can't, Kazuki's still best girl just because she's adorable and has a stupid accent. I know I gave it to her, but still, it's great. And I still love Arimura. Like, everybody was just... And even Onoe, for being, like, a psychopathic bitch, she was still kind of adorable in the beginning. Like, I just... Wow. But anyway. Yeah, I will see you guys around in other things. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.